Welcome to the Mind Your Business Show. I'm your host, Tony Calloway, your private money godfather, and today we got a topic that sounds provocative. I want to talk to you about 9 ways to go in business without starting one. Go get your pen and paper. We'll get on it when you come right back. Welcome back. I'm Tony Calloway, the private money godfather, your private money godfather, and thank you for tuning in to the Mind Your Business Show. As I said in the intro, today we're going to discuss 9 ways that you can go into business without starting one. Now, as I always say, there are 3 things that people want to do. One is that they want to write a book, the other is they want to invest in real estate, and the third is that they want to go in business. Well, there are a lot of challenges with that. In fact, one of the things that I always talk about is how many new businesses fail. And according to the statistics from 2021, about 90% of the businesses that start fail after a few years. And that's according to explodingtopics.com. So when I'm talking to you about these ways, these 9 ways that you can go into business without starting a business, you say, well, how the heck do you go into business without starting one? Well, some of it has to do with just basic understanding of what a business is. And now here's a definition that says a business is defined as an organization or enterprising entity engaged in commercial, industrial, or professional activities. So remember, commercial, industrial, and the key thing here is professional activities. And businesses can be for-profit or non-profit organizations. So by the technical definition of a business, the things that we want to talk about today are going to allow you to not have to do all the aspects that starting a business requires. All right, so what does it take to start a business? Well, there are 4 key things kind of bunched into categories for simplicity. One is you have to have startup capital. You have to have money to actually get things set up and in a position for you to quote unquote open your doors and say, hey, come on in and do business with me. So you got to have that kind of capital to get all the fixtures, if you have a location, desk, computers, that kind of stuff. All right, and depending on the kind of business, it might be even more involved. But in addition to your startup capital, you have to have working capital. Now, working capital is the money that gets spent during the course of operations in an effort to drive business and to generate a profit. Now, that will include marketing, paying staff. You know, obviously, if you have an office or a location, you have to pay your utilities, all those kind of things. And generally, your working capital is going to allow you to have everything paid for while you're waiting for the revenue to come in as you're working to develop your profit. The third thing is a broad category, but that's operational infrastructure. Now, when I say infrastructure, that's all the things that are needed to give the business the means of generating the revenue. All right, so let me give you an example of what I mean by operational infrastructure. Let's say that you had a bakery. Well, you not only have to have the location, you have to have the commercial ovens, you have to have the processes of getting your supplies in, to mix them all up, put them into the ovens, and then you got to package them, and then you're going to put them on in a display, or you're going to send them off, or however you're going to do that. All those things that are links in a chain that go from something coming in the door as raw material and going out as finished goods, that combines with the process of letting the public know that you have a product or service to offer, to get them to come in to give you their money to solve their problem, then that whole process is your operational infrastructure. And that can be a lot, okay? And then the 4th thing is a viable revenue model. Now, a lot of people can create great product. People can go out here and set up a beautiful storefront. They can have pretty business cards, an awesome website, they can have all that, but if the revenue model doesn't get people coming in the door with revenue, with money adequate for you to sustain operations and make a profit, then it's all going to fall apart at some point. So those 4 things are what it takes to start a business. So as we go through and discuss these various aspects, you're going to see that, you know, there are ways to reduce and eliminate one or more of those. So when we say go into business without starting one, we're going to see that there are at least 9 ways, and you might come up with some others, but this is going to kind of get your mind working about how you can do this by reducing or eliminating one or more of these requirements. Now, the private money syndicate is here to help you to power your dreams with private money. So from the standpoint of any idea that you have about going into business or investing in real estate, please reach out to me at privatemoneysyndicate.com or give us a call at 706-888-3719. All right, here's the first one. Now, selling on commission. Now you might say, okay, how is selling a business? Anytime that you're at the top line of revenue, you are in business. Any kind of salesperson is actually, if they're on commission, they're in business because they have to generate sales and revenue for whatever product or service it is that they have to sell. I remember when I was a kid and my grandparents had this big rabbit pen, but we would sell the rabbits, all right, because back in the country we used to eat them. But from the standpoint, we would sell them. We knew about what it cost to raise them, which wasn't a whole lot. Because just as a side note, in the country, you know, when you have leftover vegetable stuff, this, that, and, you know, nothing goes to waste. You just throw it in a rabbit pen, the rabbits eat it, and next thing you know, you got a whole bunch more rabbits. So we would sell them and sell them at a profit. So that commission, that profit that we would make was analogous to being in business. We had an expense, we had a product, we had to meet a customer's needs. We would do that. Eggs. My brothers and I would have our watermelons. Now later on in life, I've sold life insurance. That was on commission. I was a 1099 non-employee. I had a contract with a company to represent their products. I've done payment processing. I had a business. I had somebody else's product, but I got paid on commission. So what's the benefit of that? I didn't have very much startup capital that I had to invest. Basically, I had to get the service or the product that I was being able to offer to the public, and other than that, just go get them. A small amount of working capital. You know, I had to get business cards made. I had a computer. I had to have internet service, those kind of things. But again, that wasn't a lot of heavy-duty machinery or anything like that to operate. I was in business. The infrastructure was already in place. Let's just use the payment processing, credit card processing business. Basically, they had everything worked out. I had to get the client's application, and that was pretty much it. Most of the time, they would send it directly to the customer, and I had the customer service role, but I was in business, okay? I was selling on a commission there. And then a viable revenue model. Well, the good thing about payment processing is I used to call it like being inside the customer's cash register. They would give an upfront amount, but then every time the customers would get their transactions running through, we'd get a residual. Now, insurance, actual product that you might be selling, any of these things allow you to go in business without having to come up with the idea and those kind of things. You actually have a company that's paying you a co-mission, being in the same mission together to go move their product or their service, and that's a great way for you to go into business without having to start one. The next one is join the gig economy. All right, now we've heard of DoorDash and Uber Eats and all these other delivery apps and things like that, people going shopping for you. I mentioned Uber Eats, and there's Uber Lyft. All these things are what they call the gig economy. Basically, you're sharing something you already have. So if you're driving Lyft, for example, you already had a car. Okay, presumably, so you didn't have any startup capital. As it says here, a small amount of working capital. You got to have gas money. That's about it. And then every time you go out here and get somebody from point A to point B, if you're doing DoorDash every time, I mean, when I go to McDonald's, which I go regularly, every time they take that bag and drop it off at the customer, they're getting paid. So the infrastructure is already in place. The relationships with the fast food vendors, with all the technology associated with developing the platforms, they're already there. Somebody already has invested millions upon millions of dollars to put that in place. What they need is you. They need you to become part of that gig economy as a business person. And of course, the last part, the revenue model, is already working. All you have to do is plug and play. So if you want to go into business for yourself and don't want to have to start it up, you can get involved in the gig economy and you are a legitimate business person. You know, JC said this thing, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So I'm just saying, when you get involved with the gig economy, that's exactly what you're doing. You're in business. Number 3 is become a consultant. Now, everybody knows a lot about something, and there's always somebody who wants to know more about the thing that you already know about. So what do consultants do? They provide their knowledge and their expertise to help make life easier, to solve problems for other people. You know, I tell people at the Private Money Syndicate, that's what I do. I said I match lenders and borrowers, and I solve the problems that keep them from doing business together. Well, that's what consultants do. Now, again, you already have the knowledge and experience, maybe from years and years of being in an industry where you don't need to startup capital. You already have the knowledge. You don't necessarily need much in the way of working capital. I mean, you have to have a means of people communicating. I would also suggest that you have a website so people can find out about you. But from the standpoint of needing infrastructure, a cell phone and a computer to do email correspondence and things like that. But that's about it, because you're providing your intellectual capital as a means of providing solutions to people. And as far as a revenue model, there are plenty of ways that you can pick and copy in terms of how to make sure that you get paid. You can bill people by the hour. You can be on a contract. You can be on retainer. I mean, they're just all kind of, think of lawyers, okay? They're functionally a consultant, and they have their different, you can get paid on contingency, okay? Like, one call, that's all, but the point is this, that if you have the knowledge about any particular topic, let the world know that you're here to help serve and answer those questions, solve those problems, and help people to do what it is they're after. And what that does is it gets you in business without having to really start one. There's not a lot to do there. Now, this fourth one is one of those three things I say people want to do. That is invest in real estate. Now, real estate, honestly, is about one of the most simple businesses in the world. Now, the challenge is, as you see that first point, it can require a significant amount of startup capital, because obviously you have to have money for the down payment if you're going to purchase a property. Now, generally speaking, after you get the property bought, fixed up, if you have to do any of that, it doesn't take a lot of working capital, because most of the time you're going to be able to get a tenant in there fairly quickly, and then from there on, all the bills associated with that property are coming out of their rents. Now, there's no infrastructure initially required, and the reason I say initially is because unless you start getting lots of properties, let's just say you have 4 or 5. I say 5 is like the goal you want to get to as quickly as possible. You can manage all that by yourself, but then even if you choose not to, there are real estate management companies that will take on those responsibilities. You give them a piece of your rental revenue, and hey, you're in business. Now, you get to operate this as a business. So from the standpoint that going into real estate, as it says, a simple revenue model, they pay rent, that's it. Okay, and if they stop paying, then you go find somebody else who will. So if you choose to get into the real estate space, please understand that you are going into business, but you didn't necessarily have to do a lot to start one. So that's number 4, invest in real estate. Somewhat related to investing in real estate is number 5, that is rent your basement on Airbnb. Now, Airbnb I'm just using as analogous for any of these short-term rental platforms that are out there. But as you can see, you already got the house. Now, I say basement, it could be a spare bedroom, it could be a house in the back of your house, or anything that is an accommodation type of environment. But minus startup capital, yeah, if you're going to rent your bedroom, then I presume you already have a bed in there and a dresser. But you might want to dress it up and make it nice. If it's your basement, you might not have furnishings down there. Okay, yeah, you got to invest in some furniture. But once it's there, you don't necessarily have the working capital that you need, because again, you're sharing space, and that's what Airbnb and these other platforms do. They create efficiencies out of excess. Now, the infrastructure is already in place. All the linkages to be able to market, to let people know you have your place available for them to do on a short-term rental. The way the money is collected, all the correspondence and communication, all the tracking of the revenues and all that is already part of the process. And they say they got an app for that. So you don't have to go through, figure that out and all that. And then the revenue model already works, and people are using it and making a lot of money doing it. And if you want to go back and say our previous episode, that's what it was all about. So consider renting your excess space on Airbnb. The Private Money Syndicate, oh man, I'm sharing all these ideas with you, and we would love to talk to you about each and every one of these or any other things that you want to do, whether it's real estate related or going in business. So do me a favor, reach out to your Private Money Godfather by giving me a call at 706-888-3719, or find us on the web, privatemoneysyndicate.com, and let us power your dreams, yes, your dreams, with private money. Now let's continue on. Number 6 is buy a business. Now I said go into business without starting one. Well, if you're buying one, is already there, right? Now, this could be from any business you see out and about, or it could be a franchise, because a franchise model is just a replication of a business that got everything in place. Now, it obviously might require some substantial startup capital. Okay, but now once you buy the business in a box, or you go out here and buy a business that somebody's trying to sell, daycare, in fact, I'm working with a client who's buying somebody else's daycare, they're ready to retire, those kind of things, well, again, you have to buy it. Okay, but now once you buy it, the working capital depends on what kind of business it is. But after that, everything's already in place. You know, the infrastructure, whatever it was doing to make money before, or if you buy a franchise, the formula that they have for all the logistics and all the staffing and the HR and all that stuff is already in place. You don't have to solve those equations. It's already done for you and done successfully. And the revenue model, yes. The only reason I would buy business is if I was going to make money with the business, and I'd have to see that it's already making money, or there's some easy fix to what the problem is. But the point being that these are complexities that someone else has already invested their time and processes to work out the issues, and now it's revenue generating and ideally profit generating too. So that's what you want to buy into. You want to buy into an income stream. And so when you buy a business, basically you're buying the revenue. You're buying the system that is in place to generate revenue and to generate profit. So that's what buying a business is all about. And again, franchising, that's one of the most common ways of people doing that. But every single day, just like people buy houses, people are buying and selling businesses. There are markets out there for that. There are even business brokers that can help you to find a business. So explore that. Go on the web and see if you can find a business broker, businesses for sale. Google any of that stuff. And if you see one that catches your eye, you know, we can help you to finance it. But the fact of the matter is, you're going into business without having to start one. Becoming a partner in an existing business. Now, when I say becoming a partner, the business is already there. So let's take an example. Let's say that somebody has a restaurant. I like to talk about restaurants because I like to eat. All right, somebody has a restaurant, and you know, they are growing, and for whatever reason they need more resources. Now, I always tell people, when it comes to people investing in a business, I say all they're bringing is money. You know, I'd rather you get a loan for that, because now you're giving up part of the profits forever. Somebody just gave you money. Now, if you bring somebody in who has some other knowledge or resources that can help the business to grow and prosper, then that partner is actually adding, they got skin in the game, and they're adding to the viability and the potential of the business. So now it says no startup capital required. You see a little asterisk after that. If you got to buy into it, then, you know, that would be your buy-in, that would be your, you know, your startup capital. But again, there might be opportunities where you're partnering with someone who has a problem that your expertise, your knowledge, resources you have might be able to solve. So I'll go back to the restaurant. Maybe they want to do delivery, but instead of doing DoorDash or any of these others, Uber Eats, you know, you say, hey, I got a delivery truck, I'll go out and run the orders, okay? I mean, you're working with them, you're partnering. You know, you don't need the working capital. Whatever is already happening is happening. You're coming in with those additional resources. But again, that supports the business's infrastructure that's already there, and it also creates that viable revenue model that is already working. You just keep growing it and making it work even better. All right, so that's number 7. Number 8 is operate your business inside an existing business. Now, what I mean by that is, I give you an example. Back when I was going to a gym, they had a guy, it was a couple, they had a juice bar in the gym. Now, from the standpoint of whatever they needed as far as their working capital and their startup capital, you know, they had already invested that, but they didn't have to have all the other accoutrements that went with the gym. The gym was already providing the customers, because, you know, you have 30, 40, 50 people in there at any given time, especially in the mornings. They were busy making their healthy smoothies and things like that. Another example of somebody who might operate their business inside an existing business is a real familiar model, salons or barbershops. Now, somebody owns a barbershop, they got those chairs, or they have a salon, they got those chairs, and you come in there as a professional, and you do what you do. You exercise your trade, but somebody else has already put the business together. You're coming in to add your abilities to be able to generate more revenue for the business as well as generate more revenue for yourself. So as it says, you can have a revenue model that, whatever you need to create to make that work for you. All right, and now number 9 is be an intrapreneur on your job. Now what I mean by intrapreneur is you are in a business as a W-2 employee, you're getting paid, but you are able to generate revenue and profit by virtue of being in that business. So obviously there's no startup capital and zero working capital. The infrastructure is already in place. But here's the key thing. You need to negotiate your revenue model. Now 3M, and we've all had Scotch tape and some of these other products, is famous for creating that environment of entrepreneurship inside the company. In fact, post-it notes, sticky notes, we've all used those things. That was an entrepreneurial innovation by one of their employees. Now, when I say negotiate the revenue model, you need to say, hey, I got this great idea, and I know we signed this contract, say if I do anything that becomes the company's property, but hey, it's in my head. And if you want this great idea that can make you money, then I want to get royalties off of it. I want to do a licensing agreement. I want to do whatever the case might be. Otherwise, I want to go sell it to somebody else. I mean, I'm just saying, you got first rights refusal here. But if you're able to negotiate something like that, and I know several people who've done these kind of things, then you don't have to have all the other resources. But again, you get to create a business inside a business. You get to go into business with your employer, so to speak, and therefore you don't have to start a business. So be an entrepreneur at your job. Now that's a great way if you got some idea to do things better, because generally the employees are the ones that come up with the ways to do things better, faster, cheaper, because they are frontline, up front, doing it every single day. And so from that standpoint, think as you come across these things that on your job help to make it better for the owner, see how you can get a piece of that action. Be an entrepreneur, and that's a way that you can go in business without starting one. All right, so those are the 9 things that allow you to go into business without starting one. So let's recap. What did we learn? Well, most businesses fail because they lack capital, infrastructure, and a viable revenue model. Now, we've seen this, the stats, all that stuff. But now, if you find some of all of these things, the capital, the infrastructure, the viable revenue model, if you can find those things, either some of them or all of them, then it reduces the risk because you don't have to solve those problems. Somebody's already done that part for you. And there are at least 9 ways, and I bet you could probably come up with 9 more, but these are 9 ways, I just want to get your juices flowing, that you can go in business without starting one, without having all the risk, and that you can get yourself that much closer to revenue and that much closer to the sweet part, the profit. All right, so there we have it, 9 ways to go in business without starting one, and the Private Money Syndicate is always here to help you to go into business, support your dreams, whether it's real estate or business. So get in contact with us at 706-888-3719. And if you got any great ideas for another episode of Mind Your Business Show, give me a call, send me an email, or go to our website. We'd be glad to talk about what it is that you have on your mind, because you're not the only one. Like I said, there are 3 things people want to do, and that's what we're here, and that's what I'm here to help you to accomplish. All right, folks, that's it for today. I appreciate the fact that you tuned in. And as I always say, if you're going to go in business and stay in business, you got to mind your business. We'll see you on the next one.